Hey everybody, this is Frilioth and welcome to another Minecraft tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to build my take on a villager trading hall. Now this trading hall accommodates 34 villagers. Now you can build it bigger if you want it to, but there is a limitation. You can't build it with any less than 8 villagers in it. That's one-sided. This at the moment is obviously double-sided, but you can build it with only one side. But because of the water at the top, the minimum amount of villages you can have in here is 8. Which should be more than, I mean, if you only want a tiny trading hall, fabulous. This will work just as well, but you can't have less than 8 villages in here. If you made it smaller than that, the water would mess up the rails and it wouldn't work. But if you wanted to build it longer, then by all means you can do. Okay, before we start building it, I'll just put a list of ingredients you're going to need to build this on screen now. Pause the video if you need to. So now we'll get on and build this thing. So to build this, you need an area that's 21 wide by 21 deep, and you need to be able to dig down 4 blocks. So you need to take that into account when you're finding the area to build this in. And it's also directional. You need to be building this in a north to south direction. If you can imagine, this will be your entrance to the south, and as you walk in, you'll have villagers down that side, you'll have villagers down that side, and then you'll probably have chests and storage at that end. But you need to be building this with the villagers on the east and the west sides because of the way rails snap together. If I can just show you, if you put down some powered rails like that, and then you put down rails next to them, they snap together in an east to west direction. So if you're trying to build this villager breeder with the villagers this direction, it's going to be very, if your villagers were there, it's going to be very difficult for you to get these rails to snap in the right direction. What you finish up doing is having to make one run of rails longer, then putting some rails in, then deleting some rails, and then putting some more rails in, and doing this. And it's just hard work, because the minute you mess it up, that happens. And once that happens, there's nothing you can do then to get it back. You have to start again. So get your villagers to run down the west and the east side, and have the entrance to the south. So you come in this way and your villagers are on that side and on that side. Okay, with that said, you need to get yourself to the middle, and I've highlighted the middle on here just for ease with the magenta wool. You need to dig down a trench there 4 deep. Okay, that's the exit. That's where your villagers are going to go if you don't want them. So you've had them in, you've had a look at them, you don't want them, you press a button, they're going to come down this way, go into a water chute. They're going to be humanely disposed of, and then the minecart's going to make its way back to your villager breeder. Okay, so once you've done that, you need to dig across 4 more blocks, and you need to dig down 4 blocks on each of them. So then you're left with something that looks like that. Now you need to grab yourself some water, and you need to put a water source block just there at the bottom, and then you need to put a water source block on the other side. And then you've got that. Now you need to get yourself some powered rails, and you need to run some powered rails all the way down to the end. Doesn't have to be powered rails. If you're short of powered rails, you could probably get away with just a couple of powered rails. It doesn't have to be all powered rails. It just is on the tutorial because it's just easier. And obviously you need to power these rails in some way. Using a redstone block I always find to be the easiest way. And that's where you'll exit. The minecart's going to exit out of that way and go off to wherever your villager breeder is. Now what you need to do is grab yourself some blocks, and you need to put blocks above the water. You need to put blocks just above all of the water, leaving the very first block open. That's the block that your villagers are going to fall into, so that needs to be left open. And then you need to run blocks all the way down to the end. So now you're left with that. Okay, next we need to fill in this trench that we've made now. So you just need to fill this back in up to the top. And it's time to start doing a little bit more digging. So you've got your centre line. You need to go over 2 blocks. So 1, 2. And you need to dig a trench here that's 2 deep, all the way down to 2 from the end. So you're leaving 2 blocks at the end. And you need it to be 2 deep. Then you want to go over 1 to the next one to the left, and then you want to dig down 3 blocks, and you want to do the same thing, go all the way down to 2 from the end, but this one wants to be 3 deep. Then you want to go 1 over again and do exactly the same, another trench 3 deep all the way back again. Then 1 more again, and then dig another trench that's 2 deep, all the way down to 2 from the end. And then finally, 1 more, and this trench is going to be 1 deep. So then you're left with that, and now you want to do exactly the same thing, but mirrored on the other side. So you've got your centre block, you come over 2, and you dig a trench that's 2 deep, stopping 2 from the back. 1 more along, 3 deep. Next one, 3 deep. And then 2. And then finally 1 deep. Okay, so now you're left with that. Okay, now it's time to start putting in some rails. So grab yourself some powered rails, and these ones do have to be powered. We can't use normal rails on this because at the moment there's a glitch where villagers can push themselves about on they can push themselves about on powered rails, but they can push themselves about much more easily on non-powered rails. So this line of rails has to be powered, and you need to put a line of powered rails all the way down here. So on the you want to put a line of powered rails down the left on those blocks there. And then you want to do the same on the other side, only mirrored. So go over to the right, go down to the trench where you've dug down the lowest of 3 blocks, and then put a line of powered rails leading into the water. And then you need to find the middle, which is the 9th block in. So count 8, and then you can put your block of redstone. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Punch that one out. Stick in your redstone, and that will power all of the rails, and then do the same on the other side. Okay, so now you've got that. Okay, now we need to start putting down some rails for the villagers to stand on when they're in the trading hall and waiting to be traded with. So go over to the left, grab yourself some powered rails, and put a line of powered rails down this line of blocks here. Okay, so you've got that. Now we need to power those rails. These need to be powered all the time. So what you need to do is pop out these 2 blocks here behind the back of the block that you've just put the rails on, the powered rails. grab yourself a lever, or 17 levers, and you need to put a lever behind the back of all of these. And then you need to turn them all on. Okay, and then put a block back above the levers. So you've got that. Now you need to grab yourself some detector rails, and this is why we built it going north to south with the villagers on the east and on the west. If you'd have built it the other way around, this is where it gets really, really difficult if you'd have done it that way. So grab yourself a detector rail and then put detector rails on the next level up. And as you can see, they snap together with the powered rails on the bottom. If you'd have built it down this wall, that wouldn't happen. They'd stay the way they were, and it would be a nightmare trying to sort it out. But because we've built it north to south with the villagers on the east and on the west, they've snapped together like this, which is just what we need. So now you've got that. Now you want to do exactly the same on the other side. So once again, power rails all the way down there. Pop out these two blocks all the way down. Some levers. All powered. And then cover them with blocks again. Okay, and then your detector rails on the next level up. Okay, so now you've got that. Okay, now it's time to put in your comparators. So get yourself 34 comparators. Go over to the left. You need to knock out these two blocks behind the back of these detector rails that you've just put down. Like that. And then you need to put a comparator coming out of all of these blocks. So you want it below the detector rail. You want it to be connected to the block that the detector rail is on. You don't want it there. Okay, you don't want it to connect directly to the rail. You want it on the block below it. Like that. Okay, then you need to do the same on the other side. Punch out the two blocks. And then comparators behind the back of all of them. Now that is going to detect whether or not there's a villager in the bay, and that in turn is going to open or close the fence gate that's above it. So far, that's what you should have. It's into. You want to pop out the top block there. That one there. And then you want to put a redstone torch on top of all of those blocks. Okay, like that. Now you need to put a block directly above the comparator. Okay, now grab yourself some normal rails. These can be powered rails if you want, but normal rails will do. They're just going to be there temporarily, just to make these detector rails snap up on a diagonal. You'll see what I mean when I do it. But you want to put a line of rails all the way down on top of those blocks that you've just put down. And what that's doing is, you can probably see, it's snapping the detector rail up onto the top of that block. So it angles down at a 45-degree angle. Now you can get rid of the rails on the top that you've just put down. But be careful not to break the block underneath it. If you break the block underneath it, you're going to have to place the detector rails again. Okay, so now you've got that. Now you want to do exactly the same on the other side. So you need to pop out those blocks there. You want to get your redstone torches. Put your redstone torches on top of each one of those blocks. It's going to be powered by your comparator. Then you want to get some blocks and put them directly above the comparators. And grab yourself your normal rails. As I say, they can be powered rails if you want to. They're only there to join up the detector rails, and then carefully get rid of them. Okay, so now you're left with that. Right, next you want to grab yourself some more building blocks, and you want to put them directly above the torches. All the way down. And then you want to put a torch off the back of that block. It should go out. Okay. Then you want to put another building block directly above that torch. So now you've got that. And now another line of torches on top of that. And these will stay on. Then grab your blocks again and put a line of blocks just here. And then you want to grab some repeaters this time. And put a line of repeaters facing towards the rails in front of the torches. These can all be left on one tick. So you've got that. Now you need to put a block directly in front of those repeaters. Okay? Now you need to put a block, if you put a temporary block there, and then another block. These blocks are going to be temporary. These blocks are going to be the blocks that you put your fence gates on to start with. You can't put a fence gate in thin air. So if you try to put a fence gate there, you can't do it. You have to put it on top of a block. So you have to put some temporary blocks down to start with to be able to put your fence gates on. So you run a line of blocks down like that, and then you want to cover that with fence gates. And they should all open. Now you can pop out those blocks underneath. As I say, they were only temporary. And now you're left with something that looks like that. You've got a torch underneath that block, then you've got a block above it, then a torch, and then a block, and then a torch. Repeater leading into a block, and then your fence gates on the other side of that block. Okay, so we'll do it again over this side. Grab yourself a block, put it directly above the torches. Okay, and then grab some torches and run them down the back of those blocks. Grab a block, put it directly above that torch. Then you want to torch on top of that block. Okay, and then a block in front of that torch, just there. And then a repeater facing inwards on default 1 tick. And then a block in front of that repeater. And then a temporary block in front of it, just one lower for the fence gate to go on. Okay, and then grab your fence gates and you put your fence gates on those blocks. And if your gate stays open, then you've done it right. If it's closed, then you just might want to go back and have a quick look at the wiring, and then you can pop out these temporary blocks underneath. So now you should have something that looks like that. Okay, now because this trading hall is going to be filled to the brim with villagers, the last thing you need in here is going to be a mob, is a zombie or a baby zombie or anything like that. So you really want to start lighting this place up quite early. So you want to grab yourself some blocks and just put some blocks behind the back of those detector rails to start with. And then above it, I'd suggest you put down some glowstone, which is going to light up your villagers like a Christmas tree. Now you could, if you wanted to, we'll just go over to the other side. You could, if you don't have glowstone, just completely fill it in with solid block, and then grab yourself a torch, and you could put a torch there. Which does the same job. Now when you've got a villager stood there in his minecart, you can't actually see the torches, but when he's not there, when he's not there, you can see the torches. So it's up to you. You can either have torches or you can have glowstone, but one way or the other, you need to light this place up. Now it's time to start putting the floor down. Now, if you want to be able to see the villagers as they're disappearing off down into the water chute down there, you need to use glass here. If you don't, or you don't have any glass, you can use solid blocks. It doesn't make a difference. But if you use solid blocks, obviously you won't be able to see your villagers whizzing off to their impending doom. So I'm going to use glass because I like watching that. So you want to come over to the left-hand side, and you want to fill this in here with glass. 2 levels all the way up to the top. And then you want to go to the one next to it and then put 1 layer of glass in at the top. Okay, so now when they fall down onto the rails at the bottom, you can see them. Okay, so on the other side, same again. Fill that one in to the top with glass or with solid blocks if you don't want to see, and then you want to leave that one uncovered. The bottom bit of the bottom block there wants to be left alone. You want to put a solid block or a block of glass on the next one up. So that's got 2, this has only got 1, and you want to run that all the way down to the end. Okay, Now you want to grab yourself a solid block. This is going to be the counter, the front, where you're going to stand behind when you're trading with the villagers. So if you want this to be wood or stone block or whatever, I mean, it can be whatever you want. I'm going to use quartz because I've built the rest of it out of quartz. But this block here, it has to be a solid block because you need a button on it. But it can be any block you want. But you just want to run a line of blocks all the way down the end. 17 of them covering the rails. So you've got that. And then you want to go over to the other side and do exactly the same. Okay, so you've got that. Now you need to grab yourself some metal trapdoors. Now they can be wooden trapdoors if you want them to be. They don't have to be metal. It's just the white fits in with the theme I've got going here. But if you wanted them to be wooden trapdoors, then you can have wooden. The only thing I would say is if you've got wooden trapdoors, you can open the trapdoors without pressing the button. So just be careful of that. I mean, it's not important, but you've just got to be careful that you remember that. And then you want to put your trapdoors on the bottom of these blocks there. Okay? Now that will hold the villager in place while you're stood here trading with him. Those trapdoors are going to hold the villager there until such time as you decide you don't want them anymore. So pop over to the other side. Line of trapdoors all the way down. Now grab yourself a button. This can be wood or stone. It makes no odds. A wood button just gives you a slightly longer pulse, but they'll both do the same job. So if you grab yourself a button, and we'll grab a minecart to throw on there just to show you. So once a minecart is on there, you've got to imagine for a second the villager's going to be stood in it. So you're going to be stood here, villager's going to be stood there, you can be trading with him. So the minecart's on, the villager's in there, the fence gate at the top is closed, so no more villagers can fall through into that particular bay. So any villagers that are going by are going to go into the next bay, and you can trade happily with him until you decide that either he shreds pants or he's a green coat or whatever. You don't like him anymore. Then you can press a button and the minecart will zoom down. And because we've built it with the exit to your entrance or the exit where the villagers are going to go out of to the south, they'll come straight down this way and then into the water. If we'd have built it with the entrance to the north, all that would have happened is the villagers would come this way first, bounce off the wall, and then go back that way. It's no biggie, really. Now, a couple of things you need to just be wary of is these buttons. There's no failsafe on this one. I've not designed this particular breeder with a failsafe. I have got one with a failsafe, but that's a lot more complicated and takes up a lot more room. So if, as I say, this one's got no failsafe, so if you press that button, those villagers are gone. You can't get them back. So you could always leave the buttons off and just carry a button around with you, or put a button on a wall somewhere. And that way you can't accidentally press the button because there's not a button on there. And then when you decide you do want to get rid of a villager, put a button on, press it, and then take the button back off again. And that way people won't come in, because if you're on a server, anybody can come into your server and start pressing buttons, and your villagers are gone. So maybe it's worth putting a button up, hidden away somewhere where only you know where it is, and don't have buttons on here. If it's your own server or it's a single player world, you can have all your buttons down here, which is what we're going to do just for this tutorial. But as I say, be wary that once the button is pressed, any villager you've got in there is toast. He's gone. You can't get him back. Okay? So now you've got something that looks like that. Okay, now we need to put the trough in that's going to hold all of the water. So we need to go to the left-hand side. We need to stick down a line of blocks just there, directly above the back of the fence gates. Okay, so the fence, not on top of the fence gates, on the block behind it. Then you want to come out one, then another one, and then back on yourself again. So you're left with that. So all 17 of your fence gates have got nothing above them, but you've got a wall around the outside of them that's going to hold all of your water. Okay, so do the same on this side, a line of blocks. You are going to have to pop one of these blocks out later to put the rails in, but for the time being, you just want to put them all in. So it's a line of blocks behind the back of the fence posts, fence gates, and then a line of blocks in front of the fence gates, all one block higher than the fence gate. Okay? So you've got your fence gates, and then you've got a wall around the top of it. So now, we just grab some water. Don't put any water in just yet, I'm just showing you. Any water that goes in there now is going to flow down the fence gates, and it won't go through. However, anything that goes in there will. Wonderful. So now you should have something that looks like that. Okay, now it's time to put some water in. And this is the part of the build that always frightens me to death. Water and redstone do not mix, so you've got to be super careful. So what you need to do is come over to the left, go over to the north end, the far end. If this is your entrance, this is where you go in. You want to go over to the back left, down here, and you want to count 8 blocks that way. Water flows 8 blocks. So you need to put your water source block on the 8th block in. So if you count 8 blocks in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's where your water source block is going to go. So you need to put a sign there to stop it from flowing backwards. You only want it to flow that way. Okay, so again, go to the last bay, the last fence gate, and count 8 blocks that way. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then your fence, and then your sign goes there, goes on that, the next block. So now if we put a water source block on there, it'll flow right down to the end. If we pop that block out, it won't flow any further, which is why we put the blocks in the first place. We put that temporary block there in the first place, just in case you've counted wrong. If you only counted 8 and put a sign there and put your water there, all of that water would now be flowing over the back, and it would be covering your rails. There would be tears and all kinds of things going on. Okay, so once you've put the sign in and you've got your water flowing that way, you need to come to the very end, of the very front of your farm, of the trading hall, and put another water source block just there, and that'll flow down to your sign. Now there is going to be a dead area here. Every so often, a minecart's going to come. If these bays are all full, your minecart is going to come down here with your villager in it, and it'll get stuck there. That's fine. That's what's going to happen. As soon as another villager comes along in a minecart, it's going to nudge into that guy. It's going to push him into the water, and he's going to go off again. So don't worry if you have a villager stuck up the top. That's fine. That's going to happen. Now, on a side note, if you want a trading hall with 500 villagers in it, then you could probably build this 500 long. But you can't build it any shorter than 8 villagers, because you need this water source block to flow to the end. We're going to be putting blocks here with rails on it. So you can't put a sign to stop the water at this end. It has to run its course, all 8 blocks. And then we're going to be putting a block there with a rail on it. Okay, so this water source block here needs to run down 8 blocks without putting a sign at the end to stop it. So the smallest you can have this trading hall is 8 villagers, which is, I mean, if you've got a small trading hall or a small area and you only need 8 villagers to trade with, then this is fine, you can do it. But if you need it any smaller than that, then you can't use this trading hall, unfortunately. Okay, so pop over to the other side, do exactly the same again, but this time the water flows to the right. You want to turn around and you want the water to flow back the same way. So you want it to flow round in a big circle. The guys at the top that are waiting to drop down into the bays are going to go down this side. They're going to go round the back on rails. They're going to go down this side. They're going to go round again. They're going to go down this side, okay? So you want to come to the right-hand side and you want to count up 8 blocks again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you want to put a sign on the 9th block. Okay, very important. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sign on the 9th block. Now you can put your water there. It'll flow to the end. And it won't flow any further. Then go to the beginning and stick down another source block. Now, as I say, be careful. Please be careful when you're messing about with water and redstone. If you accidentally put a water source block on top here, it's going to flow down, it's going to wash away your rails, and you've just spent ages putting your rails in. You don't want to be washing them away. So please be very, very careful. But anyway, once you've done that, that's what you'll have. Okay, now it's time to start filling in some of these gaps that we've got knocking around. So grab yourself your block of choice again, and you can start filling in this area here. So if you go over to the left-hand side, you need that block there. That one needs to be free. That's where the villagers are going to fall down in. So put a block there, there, and there. You want your 3 blocks there, and then that block has to stay open. And you want 2 blocks above it. Okay, so that's what you've got. And then fill this in with your block of choice over to this side. And then 3 blocks there. And then 2 blocks. So your villager falls down into the water just there. Okay, now we can start filling in the sides of the villager trading bays. So grab yourself your block of choice again. These can be visible. These will be visible from the front. If you're stood here, this block will be visible. So make it a nice one. And you want to fill that in like that. And you want to do the same on the other side. Okay, so when you're at the front, when you're inside, that's what you see. Okay, now we need to put in some rails that's going to take the villagers from one side to the other. So once they've come down this water chute, they're going to drop onto some powered rails and it's going to take them over to this side. So pop over to the right-hand side. The villagers are going to be going in a clockwise direction. So you want to come over to the right-hand side. This is the front. Over to the right. Pop out those 2 blocks there. Then grab yourself powered rails. And you want to put powered rail there and 1 there and then 1 there. And now you want to go up 3 blocks. Okay? And then you want to run this across to the other side. So grab yourself some blocks. Run it across so it's level with this water chute here. And then you want to put a temporary block just there like that. Okay, and then you want to run these powered rails all the way to 1 from the end. and then you want to put in a normal rail there and then there. And then you need to pop that one out and get rid of that block, because that rail has to point that way. You want your village, you want your minecart facing down the water chute. If it falls in sideways, when it gets down to here, it gets stuck and no other villagers will push that minecart along if it's sideways. If it's lengthways like that, they can. If the minecart is sideways in there, they can't. It'll get stuck. Doesn't matter how many villagers are behind him, it won't move. So that's why we need that little kink, that bend in that rail there. And now you need to get some power to these rails. So find the middle, pop out the block, stick yourself in a redstone block, replace the block with replace the rail you've just taken out, and now any minecart that goes in there will whiz across and drop down into there. Perfect. Now we need to do the same on the other side. So whiz yourself around to the back, stick yourself down some blocks to block off the end. Okay, again, they're visible, so make them a nice block. And remember, villagers are going in a clockwise direction. So you want to pop out that block if you've not already done so. Pop out that block. 2 powered rails, or 3 powered rails, and then you need to go up, so it's the same height as the one over there, up 3 blocks. And then run it across. Level with this water chute. Temporary block there. Powered rails all the way along. And then 2 normal rails so that it kinks at the end. Pop those 2 out. And again, now you've got the powered rails running to the end, and then the normal rail forcing the minecart to be sort of level with the water chute. And then you can come back, pop out the middle block again, replace it with some redstone. And now, if there was, if all the bays were full, villagers at the top would just merrily go round and round. You don't want to let this get too full. If this starts to back up, then villagers will start falling down on top of each other, and they'll die. There's no getting away from it. So, really, once your breeder is filled up, you need to, once your trading bay is filled up, you need to stop villagers from breeding and sending new baby villagers down here, because you only want, I don't know, 10 or so up the top. You shouldn't need any more than that. And you could start getting yourself into trouble. As I say, if this is absolutely solid with villagers, they will start to die. They'll start falling on top of each other and they'll die. So although it's an overflow, don't fill it. Okay? So once you've done that, that is what you should have. Okay, now it's time to start filling in some of the gaps. So you want to get yourself inside the trading booth, a trading hall. Grab yourself a block of choice, and you want to cover the front of these fence gates. You don't want to be seeing the fence gates, do you? I don't. I know a lot of them you can. I don't like the look of it, which is why I've decided to cover them over. And then you want to do the same on the other side. And now all you can see are your beautiful villagers. Now grab yourself some carpet. Any carpet. We'll choose what colour today. We'll have orange today. I know we'll have yellow. We'll have yellow today to match the glowstone behind it. And you want to stick some carpet on the top of this counter kind of thing where your buttons are. Now this serves 2 purposes really. 1, it looks nice. And 2, it stops baby zombies from getting in there and eating your trading villagers. Baby zombies just can't get through that gap. If that wasn't there and you got a baby zombie in here, it'd be in there like Flynn, and you would lose everything. And I mean everything. They'd all go. So put that bit of carpet there. Now you want to grab yourself some glass, and you want to put 2 layers of glass above the top of these blocks here. And then you want to do the same on the other side. Okay, so now you can see your villagers going around at the top. Now, if you wanted to, and it's entirely up to you, let's just stop that water for a second. If you wanted to pop out this block here and replace this with glass, then you can do. But don't do that. So you get to see more of the villagers, you get to see the minecarts, but you also get to see the signs and you get to see the water. So I don't particularly like it, but there's no reason why you can't do that. But for this tutorial, we're going to have solid block there. And if you do manage to break the rails, don't forget to put them back. Oh, and then you've got to put your water back in. Don't forget your water. Schoolboy error. Okay, so now we've got that. Now you need to grab your block of choice again, and you need to start making it look pretty. So you need to start filling in the areas now that have got holes in them. So you want to fill in that bit there. You want to fill in all around the back. And then back again. Now we are going to put a roof on the top of this, but you have to be careful. Now, you might think villagers are only 2 high, so you can put a roof there. But because they're stood on the fence gates, they're sort of 2.5 high. So if you put a roof there, they'll all suffocate. Okay, so you need the roof. You need another block above that there before you think about putting a roof on. And then you can put a roof over the top of it like that. And then another line of blocks above the glass that you've just put down. Don't put one there. Don't put a block there just yet, because if you do, they're going to suffocate as they go up. So don't put one there. Okay? So now you should have something that looks like that. So we just need to do the same on the other side now. Fill in those, and then fill in the blocks around the black. Fill in the blocks around the back. And then whiz round to the front. Put the ceiling over the top. Leaving that block there, that's where the villagers are going to fall down. They're going to come down in the minecart, run into that, fall down. So you need that block left open. Okay, and then solid block on the front above your glass. Leaving that one for the time being. Okay, so now you've got that. If you wanted to put torches down that back wall at the top, you can do. If you wanted to replace that with glowstone down the back there, you can do. with sea lanterns. If you want to, you could put torches on or glowstone on that particular block at the back as well. You can do. There's no redstone running off of it, so any one of those blocks can either have a torch on it or redstone, or a sea lantern or a glowstone or a torch. Okay, so now you've got that. Okay, now it's time to stick the roof on the inside. Again, you can make this pretty much out of any block you want. The idea now is just to cover up the rails and the redstone blocks on the inside. So if you want to make this a beautiful arch, then you can do. If you just want to make it straight up, straight across, and straight back down again, you can do. It's up to you. We'll sort of follow the contour of that a little bit just to give it a bit of shape. And the same on this side. As I say, this is all aesthetic, so if you can pretty much do with it whatever you like. You've just got to remember not to block off the rails at all. And if you want to put stairs in there, you can do. If you want to cover the redstone up, you can do. Up to you. Okay. And then we just need to go up one more block. Stick a temporary block there. And then I'm just going to fill the rest in with solid blocks. But you can just go crazy. Just go nuts. And then just give it a bit of light at the top. Stick in some more glowstone. I put one too many blocks on that side. There you go. That's better. Okay, so now we've got that. Now, if you wanted to get rid of the redstone block, if you didn't want to be able to see that redstone block underneath, then it's easily fixed. Just pop that out, replace it with a normal block, and then put a block above there and stick a redstone torch on that block. Okay, like that. It's the same job, just you don't see the redstone block from underneath. So pop it out if you want to. Block there and a redstone torch on that. And that will have exactly the same effect. The only difference being now you can't see the redstone block underneath it. So now we've got this. Okay, so the final touch is really, you've got to put a skin around the side. If this was a building outside, you'd need to put a skin around the outside of it. If it's actually been built underground, then you probably won't have to do anything else other than make the entrance look nice. Okay, which is your way in. I mean, you can do what you like with it. If you want to put some blocks up there, if you want to put doors on it, if you want to make it super secure, then you can block all that up and just have one door in the middle if you wanted to. And you need to decide whether or not you're going to have it a walkway completely through. So if you could have entrances at both ends if you wanted to, up to you. But what I like doing is having storage at one end. So I can keep all of my emeralds and all of my trading goods within easy access of the villages. So if you do that, and then put some light at the end, behind the back of what are going to be your chests. Okay. And then grab yourself some chests. You're going to need some chests and some trap chests. Chest and a... Where's my trap chest? Trap chests. Okay. And then stick yourself down some chests. Don't do that. Just did that to show you. Don't do that. Okay. And then you can put yourself down some chests on the other side. Can't put one above there. Well, you can put one above there. You can move that one, but you can't move that one. Okay, so if you wanted to put another chest there, then you could do, but you can't put one above there. Then grab yourself some trap chests and stick them either side. And if you wanted to, some normal chests down the middle. Now, as long as you've got glowstone at the top there, those will open. If you had a solid block there, they won't open. And then just put that above it like so. And then whiz round the back. You could have done this to start with, but I didn't. But just whiz round the back and either fill this up with glowstone or with solid blocks. It's up to you. Okay, so now we've got that. Now, as I say, if this was a building and you'd skinned the outside of it completely, you wouldn't be able to see through there. And if it's underground, you won't be able to see through there either. But we'll just whiz round the back as it is, just to tidy it up a little bit, and just put some blocks here to block the light from getting through, so you can't see it from the inside. Bearing in mind you have to leave enough room there for the villagers to come up without taking damage on the block. Okay, so don't start sticking blocks there, otherwise your villagers will die. Even if you put one there, the villager's going to take damage, he's going to die, okay? So make sure you leave enough space. And then just do the same at the front. I can still see a gap up there. You won't, if it's underground, you won't be able to see that. And as I say, if you've got a skin on the outside of it, you won't be able to see that either. So there you have your trading hall. That's going to bug me. I'm going to go up and fix it. But as I say, if you completely skinned the outside of this building, you wouldn't be able to see that. Yeah, that should be it now. And yes, it is. Fabulous. So now we need to get some villagers in here. So if you've got yourself an industrial villager breeder, or any old villager breeder for that matter, you want to bring the feed into the trading hall. If this is the front, you want to bring the feed in from here. So you want the inn to be this way. Now you need it to be like this. Let's just put a redstone block in there. Okay, you need it to be like this because what you don't want is you don't want these villagers banging up against any villagers that are already in the system. Because if they bounce off these villagers and start going backwards, it's going to go backwards into your villager breeder. And that's going to cause you all kinds of trouble. So, as I say, you need this to be... I mean, if you want to stick a slab on top of there, then you can do. Get yourself a slab on there, because that's not going to suffocate your villagers. And get another block on there, and that way any minecart with villagers in it that goes on there is going to go across and land on these rails and not get bounced back down that track. And if it happens to land on these rails and bump into another villager, it's just going to go down there, hit the bottom, hit the buffer, and then come back up again. Okay? Which is why we have that drop, and that's why we have these drops here as well. We can't just have that running straight into the water, because if the villagers came down here in the minecarts, hit another villager that was already in there, it would bounce back, and then they just keep bouncing backwards and forwards in here. It would cause no end of trouble. Okay, which is why we need the sort of stopcock, really, to stop them from going backwards. It's a one-way system. We don't want villagers going that way if we can help it. So now we need to get some villagers in there, don't we? So we've got a few in there currently running around at the top, and as I say, they'll fill up that side first until they get completely filled it and get to the end. If they do fall down and miss a bay, don't worry, the next one will fall in and fill that bay, so you're not going to start missing bays out. And as I mentioned, you will get the odd one stuck there. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen more often than not. And he will sit there until another villager comes along and pushes him. So let's get a few more in the system. See, if he bangs on there, he's just going to go down the back, bounce off the end, and then he'll go straight back across again the other side. And as I say, they'll happily go around at the top for forever, really. But as I mentioned, don't get this full. If that was completely full and another one came along and landed on top of that guy, he'd eventually take damage and he'd die. So once this side is completely filled, he's going to go up there, go around, and go into the other side. Now, if you want to get rid of one of the green coats, because green coats are useless, pop that switch. He goes off into the killing area, and then the gate opens at the top, and a new one falls in his place. So get rid of green coats. If you do press this too quick, then there is a chance that the villager is going to get stuck down the bottom there. Okay, so don't go just spamming the buttons to get rid of them. Give them a couple of seconds to at least get out of the way before you start pressing more buttons. And then those minecarts, don't know whether we're going to be able to see them, are going to come out the end empty, and they'll go off to wherever it is your villager breeder stores minecarts. Okay, so finally, once you've got it up and running, once you've got it filled up, and you've started trading with the guys, and you've got some villagers in there that you want to continually trade with, and you've got rid of all the chaff and the villagers you don't want, you can stick yourselves signs above them telling people what the trade is. Or however you want to write it down there. It's entirely up to you. And finally, and this is the last finally, don't go flushing baby villagers. Obviously you don't know what their trades are anyway, but if you get a baby green coat in there and you just want to get rid of him, don't. If you press the button and he's a baby, he's not going to die. He's not going to suffocate. It's going to be too small to suffocate underneath in that little area there. So all you'll be doing is sending a baby villager back to wherever the minecart storage system is. And if you've got a storage system that breaks minecarts on a cactus, all you're going to do is send a baby villager all the way back down to where the minecarts are stored, the minecart is going to break and the baby villager is going to run off and wreak havoc. So if you have a baby villager in here, and you will do, don't go flushing him until he's grown up. So unfortunately, there's no way of getting around it. I mean, you're going to want to wait until these guys are grown up anyway to find out what their trades are. But if he's a green coat, he's just going to have to sit there until such time as he's grown up. So don't go flushing babies. Otherwise, he won't die. He'll go all the way under there, alive and well, and you'll have a baby somewhere loose in the system. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's my take on a villager trading hall. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, everybody. If you have, please don't forget to leave it a like. And if you've really loved it, don't forget to subscribe for future tutorials. This is Frilioth, and I'm out of here.